In the last 100 years, many alarming and highly questionable experiments have been conducted in the name of science. This video discusses 3 of the most astonishing experiments of the past century, with the last one being particularly shocking. The so-called Philadelphia experiment was allegedly conducted as part of a U.S. Navy research project in the 1940s, investigating a way to make ships invisible through strong magnetic fields. All information and statements about this mysterious experiment come from the Allende letters, written by a supposed eyewitness named Carlos Miguel Allende. According to Allende, he saw with his own eyes how a gigantic warship, the USS Eldridge, became completely invisible for several minutes while he was serving as a sailor on a nearby merchant ship. He claimed that this experiment had devastating effects on the ship's crew, including burns, mental damage, and even complete disappearance. Furthermore, he stated that the ship vanished from the Philadelphia harbor within seconds, reappeared 500 kilometers away in Norfolk, and then returned to Philadelphia. The U.S. Navy denies ever conducting this experiment, and the facts contradict Allende's claims. It is impossible to achieve invisibility or teleportation through magnetic fields. However, the Navy did experiment with magnetic fields, but not to make ships invisible. Instead, they aimed to protect themselves from certain German torpedoes during World War II. What do you think? Is there any truth to this story, or was Allende simply seeking attention and money? Feel free to share your opinion in the comments. Between the years 1953 and 1970, the CIA conducted a research project called MK Ultra, aimed at exploring consciousness control. As part of this program, thousands of people, both knowingly and unknowingly, were administered hallucinogenic substances such as LSD or mescaline to determine their effects on consciousness and to find possible ways to manipulate it. Many of the subjects suffered severe physical and psychological damage as a result. In the mid-1970s, this project was scrutinized by various investigative commissions as it had violated the law in many cases. However, these efforts were significantly hindered by the CIA's destruction of the majority of documents related to the project. Author and journalist Stephen Kinzer described this project as a continuation of the work carried out in Japanese prisoner camps and German concentration camps during World War II, which aimed to control and suppress the human mind. He provides evidence that the CIA recruited Nazi scientists to continue these experiments. Among other things, people were coerced into making confessions for crimes they never committed. Several years later, the project's head, Sidney Gottlieb, stated that the goal was to completely erase an individual's existing consciousness and then implant a newly shaped consciousness as desired. However, it was concluded that such manipulation was not possible, and at most, individuals with certain predispositions could be guided in a certain direction. Therefore, all programs researching consciousness control have now been discontinued. Do you believe this is the truth? The Stanford prison experiment was launched in 1971 to investigate the psychological effects of imprisonment. For this purpose, 24 average students were selected based on personality tests and were assigned to either the role of guards or prisoners by a coin toss. Before the experiment began, the participants in the prisoner group had to sign documents waiving some of their basic rights. The experiment started with the participants being arrested by real police officers for fictitious crimes, informed of their rights, and taken to a police station. After being held in a detention cell, they were blindfolded and brought to a specially constructed makeshift prison, which consisted of 3 cells and a hallway referred to as the prison yard. All areas were monitored by cameras. The guards were given uniforms, batons, and the freedom to establish their own rules and enforce them. The prisoners received only a hospital gown and a number they had to use instead of their names. By the second day, the first rebellion broke out, which the guards suppressed. From that point on, stress reactions and psychological instability among the prisoners became apparent, as well as sadistic tendencies among the guards, who humiliated the prisoners at every opportunity to demonstrate their power, such as denying them access to the toilet and forcing them to use buckets in their cells instead. The experiment was terminated after 6 days because some of the prisoners had serious psychological issues, and the researchers had to intervene several times to prevent escalations. The originally planned duration was 14 days. The outcome of this failed experiment mainly includes the realization that certain factors lead to specific behaviors. Even if each individual factor is not particularly dramatic, together they have significant consequences. According to Philip Zimbardo, one of the researchers, these factors are anonymity and de-individuation, the power of rules, roles, and responsibilities, cognitive dissonance, and the need for social approval. After the publication of this experiment, there was extensive debate about its ethical acceptability and validity. What do you think? Is it ethically acceptable to imprison and humiliate people for experimental purposes, even if they have consented beforehand? That's it for the video. See you next time, and don't forget to subscribe to learn exciting things daily in the fields of science, history, and philosophy.